Hey la, welcome to Coffee with Avila. I'm Aviana Lemaire, and today I'm talking about accommodations I have made for myself and my ADHD. I started making these accommodations before I knew that I had the ADHD brain. I just knew that I was different. I still look at it this way. I just knew that I was different. I had different needs. Things don't work out for me. Some of them were very stressful. So I would have a tendency to just eliminate some of the stress. You know, if there's something I just regularly could not stand getting done, I looked at it and decided whether or not it was even something. I think to myself, is this something I even need in my life? Is it helping my life to get this stuff done? And if it wasn't, I nixed it. And if it was something I could put off, I put it off. And I'm just not feeling bad about that. That's just how I'm living my life and actually actively getting things done. So a lot of this stuff is laundry oriented stuff. Thing number one on my list is I do not separate anything by color. Maybe once in a blue moon I end up in a weird situation where I'll kind of end up doing that, but I can't even tell you when the last time was that I did it. I do know it has taken place probably twice or so in the last year, but I truly cannot figure out why I would have done it. It would have to be a particular fabric, a particular color, or something I'm washing for a particular reason. I talked about romanticizing life as a neurodivergent, and I was basically saying it's a lot of things where you just take care of yourself. I think we do it naturally. It's about kind of being cozy, enjoying your moment, truly making sure that you're living your life to the fullest. So a lot of what we do is just kind of naturally that, our natural bents. And part of that for me is going back to being who I am and the things that I do, the things that I wear, the clothing. And I just naturally have a tendency to choose a dark color palette. I wear a lot of black, red, purple, and that's generally about it these days. I had stopped that for reasons other than my needs. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about my well-being, my ease, or my comfort, definitely. So growing out of other things and back into myself and the way God made me, I just wear colors I like. And I'm not concerned with trying to look like some specific person's image so that they leave me alone and give me peace. I wear my stuff. And the stuff that I like is generally a dark color palette. And I'm saying this greatly because if you wear a million colors and you've got a bunch of fabrics where the color might transfer and mess things up, it's probably not going to be that easy for you to do something like this. But contextually, it actually is really easy for me to just quit separating my laundry by color, because in my life I just tend to wear similar colors. And if there's ever a situation where I'm concerned that something might fade, like I'm running into my desk, phooey. I'm running into something on my desk, but I'm still wearing something that's a dark color right now, but the red that I'm wearing, it's not really a jet black color. It's not purple. It's something where something could fade onto it. And in all reality, I don't think anything has. It's one of those things where sometimes I'm mindful about washing something that's brand new if I think it's going to fade the first time, because I'm not going out to ruin my clothes, and I'm not saying I don't care about taking care of them. I actually do care about taking care of them. And this is part of the reason why I do less work to take care of them, because the more work I had to do and the more miserable it felt for me to do laundry and take care of my clothes, the less I wanted to take care of them, the more I just kind of didn't. So for me personally, eliminating something like separating my clothes by color into multiple loads and then having to do many, many multiple loads just because of color and not even because of clothing volume, that made kind of a huge difference. And it's stuff that is also reflected in things like my curtains, my bedding, my decor, all these different things. I just tend to go for colors where they go together, and so it's easy to wash them without me having to be bothered separating them. If I really want to, I still will, but in general, eliminating that from my life has just made my life a much easier place. So I basically don't ever do it. 99% of the time, I'm just not doing it. Thing number 2, also laundry oriented. I basically do not fold laundry. anything that traditionally is supposed to be folded, I'm just not gonna do it. This is something I was taught to do, and it's something that I was good at, almost too good at it actually, because while part of me would sometimes not want to do it at all, part of me would sometimes really love doing it because I loved meticulously getting everything together, folding it out, making sure, you know, all the towels that are the same size line up properly, and I knew how to fold the towels so even if they weren't the same size, they took up the same space and they lined up and all that stuff. But then there's also another part of me, especially when anything was going on in life that took all that energy away, like the spoons theory thing. If I had already used the laundry energy spoons on other things, I would hate it so much. I would hate the entire shebang from start to finish. I'd be putting it off forever. I don't want to do it. It's too much work separating a million tiny loads. Oh, on the previous thing I was going to say, I don't do a million loads anymore, and I do far less laundry not separating my colors because I just kind of don't have a million things cloth wise and things that I wear and all my bedding and stuff. So I generally have no more than 2 really large loads to do at any given time, and it's very manageable for me. It's not really a minimal, like a minimalist type minimal thing, but it's a way in which I'm naturally minimal. And so yeah, not separating stuff by color greatly brought down the amount of loads I have to do, which brought down the amount of work I have to do. And now instead of 4 or 5 different loads, sometimes I'm just doing one. But back to this point, I thought that was an important thing I wanted to mention because it really cut down on a lot of work that I used to have to do. The folding of laundry thing, I don't have a whole lot of things that need to be folded. And I've thought about this because there's a lot, because of some of the stuff I've been through in life, I've spent a good amount of time trying to get out of a mindset that is constantly thinking about time. There come the hiccups, excuse me. I try not to spend all my time, I just don't now, but I've been through phases where I had to try not to spend all of my time thinking about all of previous wasted time, where my time went into harmful things and stuff that felt like it was taking life away rather than just having it there to live. And some of the things of life that I have been taught to do and spent a lot of my life doing are completely unnecessary for me. So I have places where I put my clothing, and there are drawers, there are baskets, wherever it goes, but really I don't need to fold my clothing to put them into the drawers. I don't need to do it to save space. I will have excuse me, a huge stack of washcloths. I decided to buy a boatload of washcloths a while back. It was one of those things I did for me to make my life easier, just for my personal needs and quirks and everything. I got a fat stack of washcloths. So I do these as a part of my laundry, and I have some where it's like face and body, and some where it's stuff like my black fluffy ones that I use as cozies around my tea and coffee. And so I have a bunch of those, and I think back to the days where I used to sit there and fold each one of these tiny little washcloths over corner by corner into 4 neat little pieces and stack them up into neat little towers and put them away and try to find out where to sit them. And then they inevitably, for me, would end up falling over, and you have to refold them and restack them. And I just thought about this, and I realized one day when I was doing my own laundry and my own towels, I don't need to fold these towels ever again, and I just stopped doing it. What I do is I just grab them when they're freshly washed and dried and fluffy and fresh. I just grab them by the corners, one of the 4 corners, and I'm just, going through the laundry, grabbing a corner, grabbing a corner, grabbing a corner, grabbing a corner, and then I have them all dangling basically from my little pincers here. I just group them together in a big pile, and then I lay them down just carefully, end to end. I just lay them down without any huge amount of fuss inside of a basket where I keep the towels. And I do that with all of them. I do that with any clothing that I have that's small enough to put away into baskets or drawers, and I just straight up don't fold anymore. because I realized in my life, I'm not getting anything out of it. I hate doing it. It takes too long. At a certain point, like I said, all of my spoons were going to other things, and I dreaded doing it, so I straight up quit. It's not negatively impacting anything in my life. Nobody's judging me for it, and if they are, hopefully they're getting something out of that for their own life, because it doesn't matter to mine. And now the thing that does matter is that I've gotten all of that time back, and doing laundry is so much easier. So what's number three? Number three is related. I also generally don't hang clothes up anymore, and this is not really something that I am doing on purpose. But during this particular time frame in my life, I have a handful of things I'm wearing as a wardrobe, a uniform every day. I'm not really doing any kind of big events or getting dressed up for something specific. So I have a handful of things for specific different needs throughout my day. And I realized, because I had all of my spoons going to other things, I quit hanging up clothes, and it really hasn't made a huge difference in my life yet. I can see where it will soon, because the more stuff that if I go into enough rotation and needing new stuff and doing more laundry, I'm not just throwing it in a heap or something. Well, I'm throwing it in a heap per se, but what's doing is that I'm taking it out of the what's doing. I think I'm starting to run out of words. I'm gonna have to wrap this up. I've got the energy and the spoons today for a video, so I don't want to run out of spoons while I'm busy stirring it up. I will end up taking the clothes out of the dryer, and I know how to do the thing where it doesn't bother me to do the thing where you snap them out to get the wrinkles out, and I'll lay them down on a surface, generally my bed. It's the great big go-to work surface, and it's really good for me with smoothing clothes. So I'll take them out, snap them out while they're warm. That kind of works for me if I do it while everything is warm, because the stuff will be in my way, and part of me just wants to get the stuff out of my way. If I don't feel like doing it while they're warm, the wrinkles don't come out the same way. But that is much more rare as I figure out how to deal with my spoons, so to speak. But what I have been doing, I do have a lot of stuff that I usually hang up, but just recently I'm finding I kind of have my wardrobe that I wear, particular dresses and cozy stuff, and I take it out, I smooth it out, and I just layer the things. And the next step for me would be to get it to where I'm going to hang it up, and then just stand there and hang everything up on hangers nonstop until I'm done. But at a certain point, I did not have the spoons for that. So even though I still don't do kind of like the ironing thing and the steaming thing, because I'm not kidding, I've kind of figured out how to, I don't think this is rare either, I've kind of figured out how to get it out of the dryer depending upon what the material is, and how much care it needs, and how hard it needs to dry, and how much moisture could be left, a tiny little bit of steam, so it doesn't set really hard wrinkles in before I get it put away. But I kind of know what to do with each thing that I'm used to wearing, so I can just smooth it out, and by the time I'm ready to wear it, it's not covered in wrinkles or anything. It's just easy to wear, and I'm not really concerned with it. I'm not really wearing the types of fabrics where it's a concern, and on a general daily basis, it's not making that big of a difference in my life. A lot of stuff I wouldn't be ironing anyway, but I guess that's an extra one. I don't iron and I don't steam stuff. I hadn't thought about that. If I can avoid it, I will do it once in a while when I feel like I need to, and for caring for things, but on a general basis, I have come up with some way, some kind of hack to make sure I don't do any of that extra work at all. If it means that I adjust the type of clothing I'm wearing, or quite frankly, if I have something that's taking too much care and I don't have the energy to put all that care in, I just naturally find myself not wanting to wear that stuff, migrating to other things. It just works out that way. But that one was supposed to be I don't hang up clothes, and then it turned into I also don't iron, so it's kind of 4 things right there. I might have already done 5. I'm not really keeping count. But the thing I had listed down as thing number 4, which might now be thing 5. I don't know. Anyway, the next thing on the the next thing on the list is I don't tend to sleep on sheets. And I have the sheets, but I have a different way of making my bed. And this is, I've seldom heard anyone say anything like this, but it doesn't seem like it has to be that unusual. Doing sheets and taking care of sheet sets was another thing. I always found that when I was sleeping with them, I ended up doing a lot of smoothing, and I didn't really iron the sheets very often in my life. That was something I would do when I really had the energy and it felt like a thing. I'm like, I'm gonna iron my sheets and make them, I don't know, feel cozy and comfy and look pristine or what have you. But I usually didn't have the energy for that, so that's another thing where I would spend a lot of time laying the sheets out and spreading them and folding them. And I knew how to fold fitted sheets, but I still found it to be extra because it's all of this extra work and all of this extra technique. It's part of the set, but you can't fold any of the pieces in the set similarly, except for the pillowcases. It just seemed like a huge amount of work to have these huge sheets and having different techniques for every different sort of quadrant of bedding. And I hated it so much. And I also I don't know, I don't really love the sensation of most sheets. I've had some I do like, and I'm a person who does better with more natural materials, cotton sheets, and a certain amount of thread count was my desire. Like, not tip top, everybody is impressed by it high, but not low enough that my sensitive autistic sensory acuity would be just on fire with itchiness and roughness all night, because I am that person where the itchiness and roughness was really a big deal for me. And I've known people where it's like they didn't even, autists, where it's like they didn't even notice. We do vary. I'm the one who's hypersensitive to it. So it's not that I couldn't deal with the sheets, and it's not like I didn't try different things and find what worked better, but for some reason I just still don't like the sensation of being wrapped up in them. They would slip around. It's a lot of extra work, extra cover on top of me, more layers, more stuff to wash, a million extra steps to make the bed, because there are all these different sheets you have to put on, and I was taught how to do hospital corners, and as much as they call them hospital corners, excuse me, but I was taught by somebody who learned it, and I don't think they learned it but they love to do it, and they learned their specific method in the military, and it was a whole thing. And it definitely does make a nice corner, and it looks good, and the sheet is on there as best it can be, but it's just more work for me. Then there are the extra pillowcases and stuff. I could just easily live without that. So what I end up doing now is I still have sheets, but now I buy fitted sheets. And what I end up sleeping on is I have the fitted sheet on the mattress itself, and it basically stays there. And on top of it, I have a big old blanket. And I'm just using what I had at the time. Not even necessarily the bedding I would have wanted, but it was what I could get at the time. And I bought a bunch of blankets years ago when everything was changing and it started to get really hard to find anything in a natural fiber, but synthetics were absolutely everywhere, and the price of everything was going up in such a way that the synthetics were now costing what the natural ones used to cost. It was during that time frame I noticed people stopped saying this is Egyptian cotton, and they just said these are Egyptian sheets or something like that. They have these different terms that you usually would see talking about a specific type of cotton, and then they just use the term. They don't use the word cotton, and I'd be like, wait a minute, something is missing. I don't think I trust your description here, because it was just enough to make you think it's what you're looking for, trying to buy, right? But it never was. Everything was kind of going into microfiber, etc. So I ended up with a bunch of bedspreads that, frankly, I don't know that they're that much easier to take care of, but as far as just sleeping on them like sheets, I find it to be weirdly easy. I don't know how it would work if I had a bunch of comforters and stuff, but I find comforters to be too much work too, because they're so thick and it's hard to deal with them in the washer and the dryer. So I'm really not a fan of them just because they're too hard to take care of. But I do still have a bunch of those. Well, a bunch. I have a certain amount. And for me, it's a bunch of that kind of material that to me is pretty easy to wash and to dry and pretty quick to dry, which a lot of synthetics seem to be, I notice. So for the time being, it's really cutting down on more of my laundry time having that. And it makes it really easy to just snap out one bedspread on top of that. Like the fitted sheet is on the mattress all the time. The bedspread is what I'm actually sleeping on. And I did this one winter because I did not want to get into the really freezing cold bed with the freezing cold sheets. So I took up a habit of lying down. One day I'd been sitting on the bed, and when I got in the bed, my feet were warm and toasty because it's where my behind had been, and my body heat was there. I was like, I need to do this everywhere. It's too cold. I cannot play. So I decided to just start lying down on the bed on top of where I would be, on top of the nice cozy comforter, because that was always warm to the touch and soft and fluffy. And at some point, instead of just lying down on it to warm it up, and it did work, I'd get in and the sheets would be warmer, but I still felt a little trapped, and I don't know, I just don't like the sheets experience. So what ended up happening is that I just was lying on the bed warming it up one day, and I thought, if I were just sleeping on top of this bedspread tonight, I would already be in bed. Instead of lying here to prime the bed, I'd just already be about to go to sleep. And I might have just fallen asleep, dragged some extra cover on top of me and fallen there asleep that night. I don't really remember. I remember thinking about it, but I don't recall if I actually did it. Because I still had that kind of mental thing, like the sheets were still under the bedspread, and I'm like the princess and the pea. I can feel the bedspread and the sheets bunching up underneath me. So I might have thought it's not worth a try. The sheets will bunch and I'll be miserable. But I just remember realizing I'm wasting a lot of time doing this too. A lot of the stuff is just me being like, no, I can make this more efficient. I can save the time in my life that I'm spending on this stuff. So I just straight up stopped sleeping on sheets. Because like I said, even though it's there, the only thing I'm actually touching is this nice, big, thick, cozy, comfortable bedspread. And every now and then I still, take off everything and wash it completely, but most of the time I'm just taking off the part I'm actually touching and doing the laundry on top of it. And I basically just use a handful of easy, thin, like easy to wash, easy care bedspreads. This has made a difference in my life like I can't even tell you, because not only am I no longer dealing with all those sensory issues with having the sheets and having them coming out from under the bed and the hospital corners coming untucked and all that jazz. They're not twisting around me. They're not sliding to one. I used to hate this when the sheets slide to one side of the bed and the bedspread slides to the other. Sleeping under the bedspread by itself, it doesn't do that anymore. And when I need more cover, I'm stacking more stuff like that, and it doesn't slip around like that either. So I basically eliminated that situation I would hate where all the covers on the bed would go crazy. This just changed so many things in my life. It seemed like it was going to be a weirdly little thing just so that I would be warm as soon as I got in bed, because the fluffy stuff is warm to the touch, and it just has been exploding into more and more daily points of favor that I'm granting myself so that my life is easier. So I love that one. And thing number 5, which is directly related to that, is I also no longer make my bed every day. I do something to it, but I don't really have as much work to do to make it because I'm not dealing with sheets and pillowcases and stuff like this. And so since I'm just sleeping on a bedspread that always stays in place, and I've got the bedspreads on top of me, I also like to sleep underneath my weighted blanket. So if I've got just a bedspread on top of me and that weighted blanket on top of that, then all I really do when I wake up is just kind of roll it out of the way. Or I just flip it over and slightly fold it so it's on the other side of the bed, and it's kind of out of my way if I want to lie down on the bed during the day, if I want to have a quick nap. It's all very easy for me. Excuse me. I thought I had contained that hiccup. They're really coming up on me. Okay. It makes it a lot easier for me because it gets the bed to where when I wake up it's nice and smooth. See, what's happening right now is that I'm running out of my words and I'm at the low end of my energy today at the end of my day. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that because I'm trying to fight through it and it's making it harder. What I'm trying to say is, Rolling the cover off to the side makes it easier for me because it's out of the way. My bed looks neat. You know, I spread out the bedspread that I was sleeping on top of, and I spread that out and just kind of roll it, whatever. I just basically flip it out of my way just so it's not something I have to deal with, so it's not lying there in a big heap. I am doing something. And it's like making the bed because it leaves me with a neater, cozier presentation, but it's not that old-fashioned thing I was taught where you get up and you've got to smooth the sheets and pull up the sheet and re-even the sheet out, because for me, who knows what's been happening, it's like all the covers are at war with themselves while I'm asleep and they just refuse to come back together even during the day. And then, you know, bedspread on top and smoothing and spreading that and dealing with pillows and snapping out the pillowcases and laying them down and beating them together. And it's just, I could do all of this stuff, and I used to do all of these things, but once again, stuff in my life changed. And if I did not have the extra energy, it wasn't even about the extra energy. Sometimes I used to just enjoy having the bed made, but that was kind of in another life when I was a different me. Life changes, and sometimes the stuff that we used to enjoy, we don't really care about anymore. And I've changed greatly. So I would sometimes enjoy making the bed, and sometimes not. And it was always just an extra thing I had to do that took up more time. And right now in my life, I don't think I care about having a traditionally made bed. I really just care about what makes me comfortable and what allows me to get through my day without feeling like I failed at everything. Like, oh, I've got to make my bed. Oh no, I didn't make my bed. I don't want to be convincing myself. It's a great thing for people to be reminded that waking up that day sometimes is the victory, or that sometimes getting out of bed after you wake is the victory. And as someone who has had health issues that will probably always remain undisclosed, sometimes getting out of bed that morning is the victory for multiple reasons, in addition to the fact that you woke up that day. And that's really good to be acknowledging, because it is a good point. But for me personally, there's also the aspect of it where I sometimes have to remind myself that it was a victory just to get out of bed, because I'm busy feeling bad that I didn't make the bed and that I didn't make it properly and I didn't do all this extra work. And the truth of the matter is, at some point in my life, I just stood there and thought, if nobody's watching and nobody's judging and nobody's punishing and nobody's arbitrary self-imagined rules and theories are overwhelming my day and my need and my well-being, if I'm not living for somebody else who needs these things of me, why am I doing them? And in my personal case, I didn't need to do any of this stuff. I still don't need to do it. I might never do it again because I'm just too busy living my life or resting or whatever it is. I might just choose never to do it again. Or I might take up any of it if I just happen to feel the whimsy calling at me that day. But in general, it just doesn't make a difference to have it out of my life in any negative way. But it makes all these differences in all these positive ways, and I get my time back. So maybe I can't fully convince myself, maybe I can't feel like I got back the time that was wasted in my life from all the things that I went through and all the things that were done to me. But I can definitely avoid spending all of what I have left constantly feeling like I have to do all of this work and like I'm behind the curve if I can't. And as much as I know sometimes it's a victory to be able to get out of bed, I do not want to be living my entire life having to remind myself of that, because there are 5 to 10 other things that I needed to do just to the bed so that I could start my day in the commonly expected way. So now I just start my day out of commonality, out of expectation, and as quickly as a flash, too. As quick as a flash, as they say. They don't say quickly, they just say quick as a flash. Because I don't have an extra pile of things to do. I basically wake up, roll my cover out of the way, and I start my day. I start taking care of myself and doing what's necessary for me to be okay, instead of trying to figure out how much time I have left doing all the theoretically necessary chores before I can start taking care of me that day. And so, yeah, I think that's just about all I wanted to say on that matter. It was supposed to be 5 things. I know it was at least 5 things, and possibly with some bonuses. And all of these things, I basically started before I had any idea that I was neurodivergent. I guess I'd had the lifelong idea, but before I truly knew. And I was just taking care of me because I knew I need these accommodations just for me. And now I know that they're also autistic and ADHD accommodations, but it's still stuff I need just for me. And doing all of this stuff actually helps me to be able to enjoy and romanticize every moment of my life, because now, instead of spending 15,000 hours folding 15,000 different sheets and all this different stuff and ironing and blah, 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 I can actually take some time for me. I literally can spend that time having a relationship, interacting with a human being, eating, playing Zelda. I can do whatever I need to do, even if it's necessary stuff that's not fun and not fulfilling. I have the time for it, and I don't feel that time crunch anymore. It gave me free time, and it was already my time. I just guess I had been mind-frilled into not realizing that it was mine to do with as I pleased. So a lot of this stuff for me is not just accommodation, it's a form of liberty or sovereignty. It's like healing taken up to the next level. So that's why I wanted to get into it, because who knows, if it gives you some ideas, it might end up helping you. Maybe you realize that you don't need to fold your dish towels anymore in order to live a happy, functional life, and that you'd be just as happy if they're neatly laid down someplace. It saves me so much time. I did laundry today, and I literally had everything put together in, not put together, but put away in about 5 minutes, I think, because I just grabbed dish towels and then I smoothed out clothes, maybe 5 to 7 minutes, because I took a few breaks, because I really didn't have extra spoons left for doing laundry. I actually tried to record this video before I put the laundry away because I was so dreading doing it that I couldn't stop myself from doing literally every other thing. So I tried a few times and it didn't work out, but it was good because it gave me a primer so that I could come back, get my words together, and finish a video today. And so if you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and thank you. And that's about it. Have a nice day.